11.4 million babies can be added, because in IVF, one egg is not equal to one baby. The egg donors are in it for the money, and the expectant mothers are in it for the eggs. But what's in it for the government? Hey, what's up, Idris? So I used to think egg freezing was a scam, a treatment sold to young wealthy girls as a succor to the corporate lifestyle and trending late marriages. But after working as an embryologist for a couple of years now and approaching the 30-year mark myself, I understand it now. Infertility is as much a societal problem as it is an individual problem, with age being one of the top factors of infertility in women, and our society now structured to push marriages to later in life. It's not a surprise to see many professionals in the field endorse this procedure. As a young person, you're expected to get a BSc, an MSc, get a job, get stabilized in your career paths, buy a car, a house, before you get married and have children. On the other hand, the chances of getting pregnant continuously dip as you age, and with women from their late 30s to the early 40s, the chances crashes to almost zero. At this point, it is statistically more difficult to have children with your own eggs. So the thought is this: why don't you freeze your eggs in your 20s when they are still of the best quality, and save them as a backup to use in your 40s if that's when you finally find your partner? My own opinion was that, number one, egg freezing is expensive and it takes a long time for it to pay off. You have to keep paying storage fees monthly or yearly for at least 10 years for it to be a reasonable decision. I mean, what's the point of freezing your eggs at 30 if you're going to get married at 35? The chances of getting pregnant at 35 is still pretty high. But if you don't get married until 40, then it was probably a reasonable decision. Expensive, yeah, but reasonable. Number two, you cannot be sure exactly how many eggs you will need to freeze. Not everyone has a perfect egg quality. Some might need to freeze more eggs to compensate for poorer quality. Because in IVF, one egg is not equal to one baby. Say you collect about 10 eggs. Out of the 10, about 8 of them will be matured eggs. From the 8, after combining with sperm, about 5 of them will get fertilized. And out of the 5, about 3 will develop into full viable embryos. If these 3 are transferred, you still have only a 50% chance of getting pregnant. So if you store too few, you might end up with no pregnancy after years of saving your eggs and paying storage fees. And number 3, there is risk in trusting your gametes with a third party for so many years. Correct management is not very standardized nor regulated in Nigeria. And in countries where it's even regulated, mishaps still happen. Alright, so what were my alternatives? Well, number 1, just chill. Even when you want to finally have your child, you find out that your egg reserves are so low and the quality of the eggs depleted. You can always find a younger girl to donate eggs of higher quality. And number 2, if you really want to use your own eggs, then you should probably find a donor sperm. Use the sperm to fertilize your own eggs and freeze the resulting embryos. You get a clearer picture of the number of cycles you might need from the number of embryos generated. Remember, the embryo stage is the point just before pregnancy. My opinion has changed. Why? Well, the average age of a woman visiting an IVF clinic nowadays is close to 40 years old. What this means is that there is an increased pressure in the use of donor eggs. Not that I have an issue with the use of donor eggs for an individual per se, but the market pressure is high and the market is poorly regulated. Now, I'm looking at it from both sides. It is disadvantageous to both parties. The egg donors are in it for the money, and the expectant mothers are in it for the eggs. It's an ugly market. Donors donate multiple times, which is bad for their own health. Personally, I think the best solution is to create an awareness about the fertility clock. Freezing your own eggs to use for yourself in the future solves both problems. You get to use your own genes, and then if you don't use it, the eggs can then be donated. It sounds cleaner that way. With more people interested in freezing their own eggs, the costs will reduce significantly. And when it becomes standardized, there will be incentives for government to further subsidize it and for insurance companies to provide insurance. But what's in it for the government? Well, look at it this way. In case you do not know, the economy is set up as a pyramid scheme that matches up with the population pyramid. When a young person works for years, retires, and then leaves the workforce, the younger people in the system indirectly pays the pension and social amenities the pensioner enjoys via taxes, inflation, etc. And that's why for an economy to grow, its population has to keep growing. This is the reason European countries are interested in the migration of young workers and why some of them push the retirement age upwards. But I digress. Let's look at the numbers. Infertility affects about 8 to 12% of young couples worldwide, in some regions reaching as high as 30%. In IVF and other related artificial reproductive technologies, applying the most efficient techniques, about 40 to 50% of these young couples can be saved from a childless future. Considering 130 million babies are born each year, we can extrapolate from that and see that 11.4 million babies can be added via IVF and other areas, being one of the most significant factors in slowing down population decline. Right now, only about 500,000 babies are born, being less than 5% of the theoretical possibilities and needs. If the government recognizes this, it can significantly slow down population decline. But more than half of these people are going to require the use of donor eggs. You can only imagine the pressure on our young girls. It is 100% worth it to freeze your eggs, not just for you, but for the society.